Hey guys, it's Eric Weingart with Weingart Racing. I posted a video about the S10 and I really didn't think anybody would even watch it. And I had fewer views than usual, which is fine, but I had a lot of comments. I just don't have a lot of time to write out the comments. So this one pretty much answers your questions about the truck. But I really would like your input more on this than anything else. Because I do think I'm pretty good at cylinder heads. I don't think I'm a god or nothing like what some people think I said or implying. I'm not that, but I do think I'm pretty good. But there are definitely weaknesses, and I know that I have them, and that would be chassis stuff and transmissions in general. I don't have a clue about those, and so I usually just buy stuff. But anyway, I don't mind criticism about the truck or any of that at all. I know some people get kind of butthurt when you recommend anything about certain things, and they just think that they're attacking them. But truthfully, if you have any input at all, I'm happy for it. I'm not just trying to get views of it. I'm actually really would like to know. But anyway, I'll tell you what I've done. If you listen to the last video, I said I was going to raise it up because the roads in Oklahoma suck, which they do. Because what I was doing was bottoming out. So what I did is I ordered I already had QA1 coilover shocks that I had bought, but I didn't run their spring because the spring that I ran that came in the kit, it brought it up so high, it was higher than it would be stock. And I was like, this is dumb. So I ended up using, when I bought, it took 2 trucks to make this, but the truck that I had got with it had either Ibach or Beltec. I think they're actually Beltec drop springs in there. And that's what I've been using. And I kept adding spacers to increase the height so it would stop bottoming out. Well, finally I got to the point where QA1 actually makes a shorter spring than what came in the kit. It's a 9-inch spring instead of the 10-inch spring. And I put that in, and this is where I'm at. So I raised, in other words, I raised the front end up 1 inch, and I took a 1/2 inch plate out of the back. So the back got raised up 1/2 inch. It still has a downward rake. It's very slight, not as much as what it was before. So that part's a little different. But anyway, I'm gonna go through parts of the truck so just so you can, and feel free to give any input at all. Now, I'll start with the motor and I'll work the way back because there's a lot of questions about it, okay? So, this is the engine. This is a 355 Chevy. I've probably talked about it several times, but for those that haven't watched other videos, to just give you an update. It's a stock block, but it has a, it started off as a 010 GM block, but I had Eagle billet caps put on. So it's actually a 4-bolt splayed cap deal now. It has the Scat 4340 crank. It has the Scat rods, the I-beam ones, but with the ARP 2000 cap screw, and they're 7/16. It's got the SRP pistons, and they're a dome, so about almost 12-to-1 compression ratio, slightly less. But the pistons I did send off to Eric at Rebco, and I had him put lateral gas ports in. Anyway, the heads I ported. They're my Brodix Dragon Slayers. Now these ones are big because this engine was more of an experiment, and I didn't really know how this work out, so I was like, I didn't really care what it did. I really just wanted the information. So the heads are 241 cc's, so pretty big for a 355. And they flowed like 326 on a 4030 bore. This is actually a 4040, so it's slightly bigger. But the heads are a 208 valve, 1600 exhaust valve. They are a steel intake valve, but it's a hollow stem, so it helps with the higher RPMs. And this is because like I said, this was kind of an experimental engine. I just want to try different things. This is a Brodix intake, and it's the BM1000. It's a really nice intake. I ported it as well. It does have a Jesel Sportsman shaft rockers with a 300 offset, so I can run a 3/8 push rod. The camshaft, I sell custom camshafts, and this one's from Comp, and I spec'd it out, and it's QRI lobe on intake and an RZ lobe family on exhaust. It's a 252, 258 duration at 50, and the lift on the intake 780, and I want to say the exhaust is like 784. It's on a 108 lobe separation. On the dyno, and I'll talk about this because I'm probably the only person to say this, and I've got the dyno sheets, and I'll try to clip and somehow link those at the end of the video, so if you stick around to the end, I'll show you the dyno sheets. But on the dyno, it made 652 on just 91 shell octane pump gas, and it did it at 7,500 RPM. Peak torque was at 6,200 RPM. And then I added this race gas additive. I didn't change timing at all, but that brought up the power to like 662 or 666, something like that. But at that time on the dyno, I was running a Race Demon 1000 CFM carburetor. And I still own that carburetor, I love it. That one you could switch from gas to methanol, so I switched over to methanol just to see if it would pick up anything. And it gained up like 30 foot-pounds of torque and only brought the peak horsepower to 672. So overall, I was really happy. Now, things have changed since it's gone on the truck. But here's what I want to say about the dyno. I think the dyno itself reads high, that one that I went to. I usually go to two different dynos. One is in Enid, is really conservative, and then this other one I use is closer to me, really great guy and stuff. I just think it reads high. And what I mean by that, it's not necessarily that it reads high, and this may sound silly to some of you. Its correction factor seems high, and I'll explain. When I'm watching it and recording it, maybe I'll link that dyno video to this. If you watch the raw numbers, so it's showing the uncorrected numbers on the screen, it's showing uncorrected number 540 horsepower. We're like, I thought you said it made 672. No, that's a corrected one. See, all dyno numbers that you see anywhere, the idea is that they're correcting them to sea level and a certain temperature and a certain barometric pressure. So this way, every dyno should read what it would be at its best point. Well, that never happened in Oklahoma, or at least rarely does. Sometimes it does in October. So what I look at is the raw numbers, because that's really what the engine's putting out at this temperature or whatever at that day. Then what's happening is Superflow, which is the dyno I used, it has a correction factor to make up for that temperature change. And I think it does other ones as well. And then it makes the numbers look higher than what they are. So what I try to do is I target for that 540 that it showed raw. So when the truck's working at its best, it should show 540, and it's not there at all because a couple things have changed. So the truck's going to make the engine look worse for a couple reasons. One is the headers. I hate these headers, and this is probably where I want audience's input. These are actually Sanderson's 1 3/4, and they're shorties. I hate them. I don't, but I'll tell you why I'm running them. On the dyno, you would think smaller headers would work better, but we tried two different sets of headers. The first one was a 1 3/4 stepped up to 1 7/8, and then the other one was a 1 7/8 stepped to 2 inch. And if you think the smaller one made more horsepower and torque, you're wrong. It liked the bigger one. So, but this one's even smaller than the smallest one, and it's a shorty. So I can promise you right now, I've probably killed it 30 horsepower and 40 pounds of torque. And I'll go ahead and straight up tell you, it's a dog on torque until it's at 6,200. And it's got a 5,500 stall on it now, but it really does need to be higher. Someone commented that, you're absolutely correct. It needs to be a higher stall. And it sure does. But as it is, it's kind of weird to drive it like this. But I don't mind it. It's just weird. Anyway, that kind of sums up the engine. So that's part of it, was the headers knocked off some of the power. And here's something I wanted to try because I had never messed with EFI. So I thought, well, shoot, let's give this Holley Sniper a try. I got, I could figure things out pretty good. The first unit was an utter failure. It kept having RFI issues, and it just didn't work. So they sent me a replacement, and this one's worked pretty good, with the exception of just like last week, I changed the header collector gasket, and it's acting kind of stupid again. What I mean by that is it has a learn table, and it's learned some bad habits from the exhaust leak. So then I had to go back to a tune that was working good and put that in. But then it's now got and I'm happy for input on this, which I think I know how to change it on the stuff, but whenever I mash it to the floor, it kind of bogs, like it's giving it too much fuel in the shot. And I know I could go into the computer and adjust that. But anyway, this is different from what's on the dyno. So between this, and I know people are like, fuel injection makes more horsepower. No, I don't think so. I can and I've got a regulator and stuff to change it over to a carburetor. I've been on the track once with it, but I'm almost tempted to go to the track and switch it there to see what it does. Now, ignition is not run by the Sniper. This ignition box is a MSD 6AL2 programmable. So I adjust the timing with the computer, and it's going to show you what I'm talking about. For those that are like, what are you talking about? What's this mess you bring up? That's my ignition box. So there, it's right located in there. But anyway, that's what controls my timing, and I do it off that. So I hope that kind of makes some better sense. But anyway, those are some of the, I'm just trying to put stuff away so I don't lose it real quick. That's some of the stuff with that. The reason why I did the MSD ignition instead of letting the Sniper Hyper Spark stuff is because I didn't want the Sniper to fail and then not be able to run the truck. As it is now, if the Sniper fails, I can throw in a carburetor and run just fine. Cooling, I first bought this, and I'm talking fast because this video seems like it's going to be really long, and I apologize because I know most of you will not make it through it. And for those that do, congratulations, you're a champ. All right, cooling. Initially, I bought an Amazon aluminum radiator that said it would work. It kept getting it hot. I mean, it was like 220. If I got in any traffic, forget it. I couldn't drive it far enough. So I got this one. This is an AFCO unit, and I have to say, it's made to fit the truck. It's amazing. It's one wider than the last one, taller than the last one, and very much thicker. So, and it's got 2 fans that cool it. It's got a 12-inch permacool that's pulling, and then there's a 14-inch one right there on the front. I would like to put the other one back there, there's just not enough room. Now you could say, why don't you just move the radiator? I would love to almost, except for there's a rod because I don't want hood pins. This is like a street truck, I want to pop and stuff. So I mean, I guess I could, I'm just not there yet. Sometimes I'll fab it from on the next engine. But anyway, there's that. What's cooling it is on the water pump, because people have asked. This is a Mazir 55 gallon per minute pump. I drive on the street, it got 500 miles on it. The thing with this is I have the computer turning on the water pump at 100 degrees and the fans come on at 160. If I get in traffic, in other words, what I mean is I'm stuck behind some car that's where stock at a red light. In Oklahoma, it seems like we have nothing but them. But anyway, if I'm stuck behind the car for 5 minutes, say, whatever, the highest it's ever gone is like 185. But I haven't really driven in the heat of the summer with this setup. I did the last one. But once it starts moving, it cools right off. And as a matter of fact, if the truck's running like down the highway, it rarely even gets to 160 to kick on the fans. It's only when it's like really hot day, like in the 80s, like high 80s, almost 90, it gets to like 170, but not really. It just barely does that on the highway, so it doesn't get it hot at all. It's only when it's just sitting there waiting. It's like it's not pulling off air. So that's something else I could work with later. But anyway, that's that part. It does now for the transmission. You guys can give your input. Like I say, it has a TCI Turbo 350 transmission, and it is it's supposed to be rated 770 horsepower. It has a TCI 8-inch converter that's been restalled by Ultimate Converters, and it flashed about 5,500 RPM. I know, because as soon as I step on the gas, it's immediately where it goes. And then it kind of bogs. Well, it doesn't really bog, but it feels like it's loading the engine, and then it starts to accelerate, probably because it's really not making a whole lot and not great torque there. You would figure it would with this, but this is a high RPM deal. It's got 433 gears out back, and I'll try to show you. Oh, it does have a carbon fiber drive shaft. So several of you said, why don't you just run an overdrive transmission? I spent $1,200 on this drive shaft. I'm not getting another one. And the reason why I did a carbon fiber instead of aluminum or steel, because you might say, you moron, which I wouldn't blame you. I probably would think the same thing. It's whenever you break a steel drive shaft or an aluminum drive shaft, if you have a safety loop, it'll protect you, but it's still going to tear up your floor pan, guaranteed. I've seen enough. When a carbon fiber breaks, it just shatters. So that's the reason why I run that. This is the interior. There's my shifter. Now, this transmission it looks like I have a trans brake. I don't. I really wish, and you can give me your input on how to make it shift firmer, because it does not shift quick at all. So when I'm at the track, the 1 to 2 shift seems like it takes forever. Nothing like the Camaro, it'll just snap right in. So I push it and it just seems like, I don't know, it just takes a while. But anyway, the 2 and 3 shift, not so bad. I can't say it. You might say, well, why don't you just run a trans brake and a manual one? Because I really wanted other people to drive it besides myself. My wife is not going to drive it where she has to shift. She's never had a standard car in her life, and this is not even totally standard, but she doesn't understand the concept. My son's getting old enough to drive. There's no way he wants that either. So drive in reverse. That's all I need to figure out. This is the interior. That's a gas gauge there, and there's the sniper. There's my gauges and my GPS speedometer, and there's my switch panel at the top, the ARC that controls all the stuff. There's that. Now, let's swing around, and we'll take a look at what's some of the other stuff I have. Because several people said, you need a big transcooler to run this, and I do. So this is in the bed of the truck, and it looks kind of ganky, but sorry. Got your battery box, fuel cell, and this is actually the transcooler. This is from Doral, and it's got its own cooling fan. So there's that. This also looks ganky, but when I first did it, I hated having the water reservoir up front, so I just moved it back here. So that's what this is. Yes, it looks stupid, I will admit. This back here is actually for the vacuum pump. And there's another guy, and every now and then he watches my videos, it's like TPV. He gave me the idea for this one, this electric one. I wanted to ask him if he ever gets on here, because mine's disconnected right now. Because when I'm driving, my valve covers actually exit right there, that hose you can see sticking there. But I wanted to ask him, do you keep yours on all the time when you're driving down the street? Does it pull too much vacuum and hurt the engine? I'm just curious. I wouldn't imagine this pulls enough vacuum too, but I was just wondering. Anyway, that's the catch can. I need to plug that other hole. This is something cool. I have my painter ghosted my dad's name on this. And also on the back tailgate, it just says this, but in a lighter tone. I'd show you, but it's kind of dirty and you can't see it really anyway. And there's that. I'll do a quick look underneath. These are the tires I run, which are Nitto's 275/60/15s. I do have Caltrax, and that's a Caltrac monoleaf on there too. It does run full exhaust. That's Cherry Bombs, they're 2.5 inch exhaust system. And you can see they're about 4.9 inches, 433 gears, QA1 shocks. They're adjustable, single adjustable though. There's that. Swing around on the front. G-force cross member. And there you go. That's pretty much it. I'm trying to keep it kind of neat underneath here, but still got some stuff. But anyway, if you guys have any input or anything you want to add about this, I'll be happy to listen to you. I don't mind criticism at all. This is just meant to be a street truck. I really wanted to run 10s like this, but I don't think it will. I did weigh the truck with me, and it weighs exactly 3,200 pounds to the T. If you have any input, I'd be happy to listen to any of it. If you got any ideas or things. There's another motor that's in the works for this, because I like this, I really do. It's fun to drive. But I want a different engine that makes the same power to lower RPM. So what's in the work is an engine with a torque storm supercharger, and I want to put way less gear in the rear end and less stall. Hopefully it'll run faster with us turning less RPMs. We'll see. But anyway, if you have any questions, just let me know. And I promise at the end of each video I do is like a restaurant recommendation, because I'm a fatty. I love to eat. So one of my favorite Asian restaurants is Hibachi, and it's Tokyo Garden. It's in Tulsa. They've got two, one in Bixby and one in Tulsa. I love it. I know you're thinking it's because of Asian food. It's actually their shrimp. You know, I visited so many other places to eat like seafood and stuff, but their shrimp is on point. So better than any other seafood place around here. Isn't that sad? It's an Hibachi, Asian or Chinese, Japanese grill, I guess, whatever. And the best shrimp there is. And not even a fish place can match that. Anyway, there's your recommendation. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. Appreciate it. Bye. Okay, I forgot something. So I thought the video would be over, but I forgot to tell you why I hate these headers. The reason why I really hate them is they leak. At least this one does. The other one doesn't. But the reason I have these headers is because I wanted to run a full-size tire, and Lemons sells some headers that are pretty expensive, and they're full-length headers, but they have two tubes that will come out and go around the frame, like over here, and go down and around, and then two tubes that come down this way, and they meet and they have a collector down here, which is fine. But he even says you have to run a skinny, and then also you're still going to hit the header tubes if it turns all the way over that way. So in other words, your range of motion as far as steering is limited. And also I wanted a full-size tire. I don't want to run a skinny. This is like a street truck, so that kind of bothers me. The other reason, this is probably the bigger one, is because of the sniper. My O2 sensor is buried in here, but you can't, I don't know if you can see it. It's on that pipe down in there. I can't see it, but anyway, it's down in there. And if you have tubes that come off, say these two tubes that come off, they slip around and go through there, that slip joint's gonna have a vacuum leak. Or not so much a vacuum leak, but it's gonna have an air leak. And the way the EFI works is correcting off of what it sees for the O2 sensor. Well, if it gets air because it just runs that way, what it's gonna do is it's gonna give the engine more fuel, thinking it's running too lean because it's picking up O2, or air, oxygen coming through. So then the engine runs richer than what it should. So anyway, there's not a really great way to seal those off when they go around like that. So it just causes them to read high. Now what you could do is you could do like a O2 bung here. So you're like 13 or so inches off and then 13 before you get down to there. I really don't even measure 1. So I don't like that. If you guys have got suggestions on that, I'd be happy for that too. But anyway, that's the reason why I run these headers, and I hate them. They fit like crap. They're for sure hard to work around. They kill power, and yeah, here I'm running them just so I don't have to run a skinny tire and not be able to turn all the way, and my EFI reads right. So anyway, I thought I'd mention that. Also, several people have asked, I've been out to the track twice. It's gone, the first run was like a 12:20, which is like, that's slow. Yes, it is. And that's because some idiot, me, forgot to turn off the rev limiter so that the burnout rev limiter was on the whole entire time. So going down the track, it was on 6,200 the entire way. Pass number 2, I turned that off. Like I turned it like it should be and raised the rev limit to 7,500. And in that pass, I ran 11:59, but I had a horrible launch because I race it exactly like it is. I don't change and put slicks on. I don't take off the mufflers. It's just the way it is. And anyway, it didn't have a good launch, but it was driver area, not so much the truck. And also, I'm sorry, I said I had the rev limiter at 75. I had it at 72. And again, it kept banging it. So it definitely banged in the 1-2 shift because it took too long for it to shift. And then on the 2-3 one, it banged it again. So I was gonna raise it up and make a third pass and try to get in the low 11s when it started raining. So that was all over. I haven't been to the track since. I'm hoping to take it out soon, except for I had a problem come up. And what problem you might say? I do routine maintenance on this vehicle. I try to keep it, you know, make sure everything's fine. One of the things I do is I'll pull out the valve covers and I'll check lash. I'm trying to make sure that the saw lifters, because that's what this saw lifter cam isn't eating up the lifter. So if you check lash periodically, you can kind of tell if it moves. And by the way, it hasn't. So far, it has not moved a single bit of lash, which is kind of shocking to me because the cam is pretty aggressive. But when I lifted up the valve cover and I was checking all of them, I found this. I'm gonna show you real quick. And again, sorry, long video. That little piece of metal right here. I know you're asking, what is that? I was asking myself too, but I figured out what it was. You see that right there? That's part of the retaining clip that holds the rocker onto the shaft itself. It had broken. And what that caused to do is the rocker to go side to side. When I pull out the valve covers, I'll show you. And so the only thing stopping it from going to one side was the bolt, because there are 3 bolts that hold the shaft on, was it was rubbing against that. So it was rubbing against it the whole time. Now I have to say I did take it back out. I was like, screw it, I just want to see how it drives. So I did go drive it some more, which I never would do if I was younger and if I didn't already have another motor in the works. But I don't think it tore up anything so much to say, just it probably definitely put more aluminum in the oil, but nothing bad. But I'm gonna change the oil anyway. I got a new pair of those rockers coming and I'll change that out. When I do, I'll show you. But again, longer video, but I forgot to mention that. Thanks again for watching. If you've got any suggestions, I'm all game. So I'm all for it. This is just a toy. I don't take anything too serious on this. Maybe on the Camaro, that's my other car, I could see that, but this is just for fun. But although I say for fun, but just like all the rest of us who have fun projects, we cuss at it like it's not fun. Anyway, take care.